Welcome to Loremen, a podcast about local legends and obscure curiosities from days of yore. With me, Alistair Beckett-King.
And me, James Shakeshaft.
And also Alistair Beckett-King and James Shakeshaft from the past, because this is an Almanac episode.
It is. It features us as young whippersnappers.
Way back in 2023.
2023. We're up to 12 months younger.
And it's not just us, James.
No.
It's guests.
It is.
Who are we talking about here?
Don't spoil it.
A vampire? Okay, so I won't spoil it. All right, we'll just get on and do the episode then. Just get
All right,
on with it.
well, let's do it.
What we'll do then?
And now it's the episode.
Yay!
Yay!
James, level with me.
Yeah.
In the last episode, we announced that there were 14 top episodes
Yes.
from last year.
Yes.
And then we introduced 8 of them.
Yes.
And in this episode, we're doing 6. Now,
Yeah,
was that division intentional, or did we think we'd done 7?
No, I can count.
Okay.
Mostly. It was the nature of the votes meant that the bottom 8 pretty much all had the same amount of votes, but the top 6 are actually different.
Oh, so the top 6 are actually good. So if you thought last week was a bit rubbish, this week's episode is going to be brilliant. Is that the idea?
Your socks are going to be knocked clean off. Your ear socks are going to be knocked off.
I'm going to put an extra pair on just to be ready. Before we start, can I read a letter?
Oh, yes. Is this a summons?
It's not one of the summonses to the Azizes. We occasionally get lovely letters from listeners, and this is one of them from Lynn in America, who sent us an email about Yorkshire voices, which I'm going to read. And it's all about accents, and I'm not going to read it in the correct accent because I don't know what a Columbus, Ohio accent is. But Lynn says, James and Alistair, Happy New Year from the heart of the US Midwest, Columbus, Ohio. I was born in Columbus and have lived here most of my life. Like most Buckeyes, brackets people from Ohio.
Good morning.
I can recognize accents from nearby states, West Virginia, Kentucky, Indiana, Pennsylvania. I honestly didn't know that those places had their own accents. Good for them.
That's a lot of states to be nearby.
That's a lot of states to be nearby.
All those states are bigger than Britain.
She goes on to say, however, I've never had a good understanding of British accents. After listening to your podcast for the last few years, I'm starting to recognize a few accents. I can now recognize Welsh.
Could you recognize yours and mine?
She doesn't mention our accents. She says Geordie. She means Geordie. She's got spelling in brackets. She's not sure how to spell Geordie. And Yorkshire.
Oh.
Quite insulting not to include Lancashire, the accent for which you're famed, James.
Or the South.
Yeah, or any of the southern accents.
In general.
She concludes, the only problem is that now when I hear a Yorkshire person speak on YouTube, I expect them to start yelling about Trebeks.
Trebeks.
Thanks for all your hard work. Please keep it up. P.S. What is a Trebek? Imagine getting all the way through that episode with no idea what Cantrell was talking about.
Yes, I can. Easily. I can see how it can
happen. Any time spent with Cantrell, you finish thinking, what was he talking about?
That's a lovely
Thank you for that email, Lynn.
Thanks,
Thank you for all the nice emails that people send in.
I wish I could help you more with the accents. I can almost recognise Welsh, Geordie and Yorkshire myself. And of course,
I have to say, Jenny doesn't have a very strong Welsh accent, does she?
No, but maybe it's the accent that we do when Jenny comes on.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if I would learn what Welsh is from that.
Well, I don't know what's wrong with that.
Good, move on.
Yes. Alistair, let's get back to counting down the top 14 episodes. We're at number 6.
Number 6.
At number 6, it is an episode from April the 27th of its Series 4, Episode 42, Strawberry Hill Gothic.
Certainly, in my opinion, one of the best episodes to feature a cravat made of wood.
Exactly, and let's listen to the origin story of that cravat.
Well, that's the weird thing about Strawberry Hill House, because if you're imagining something sort of Tim Burton-y, it's not that at all. So you and perhaps the listener might want to pause and ask Jeeves, or indeed Alta Vista, Strawberry Hill House, to get a sense of what it looks like.
I've just seen that picture of that old lady. We're getting a cake.
You're still looking at a picture of a Fuhrer.
She's looking at them going, that's not a bacon sandwich.
There better be bacon in the middle of that cake. What's the filling?
What
bacon?
do you think you're doing?
I eat bacon.
You come to me on my 109th birthday without a bacon sandwich. This is when Bob Dylan played The Godfather.
Asking for a favor.
I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Oh, wow. It is pretty cakey, though, Strawberry Hill House.
It does. Yes. Oh, absolutely. It looks like a wedding
frosted.
cake. Yes. The exterior is white. The interiors are full of bright reds and blues and Ostro-Gothic wallpaper.
It's a bit much.
Oh, it is way, way too much. It's like if you did Disneyland, but with the budget of Metroland. And now you have to know what Metroland is to really get that analogy. Have I told you about Metroland?
No. Did your parents trick you into thinking that the French Underground was Euro Disney?
It was a theme park, yeah. A very, very, very flat roller coaster.
Yeah.
So in the northeast, we've got the Metro Centre, which is like our version of a big out-of-town shopping mall.
Oh, yeah.
Like in East London, you've got Blue Water.
Yeah, sure, Blue Water, ain't it?
Or Blue Water, if you were to pronounce the letters in that name. Blue Water. Metroland was a mini theme park inside the Metro Centre, which had its Metro gnomes, which were people dressed up as gnomes. And I'm aware, as I say this, that it sounds like a lie.
Yeah.
But it's true. We had gnomes, giant gnomes.
Was the Metro... It sounds like it would be futuristic.
It was more medieval. There was a Strawberry Hill House style fairy tale castle, but you couldn't reach it. If you tried to reach it, you fell into a hall of mirrors. Oh. So my entire childhood was spent trying to work out how you could get to the fairy tale castle. Walpole coined the word gloomth to describe the effect he was trying to achieve.
Right. It's not the noise that the helmet made when it squashed the guy.
That would have been more of a, I think.
Gloomth.
Because really, he was in bits, James. There was nothing left of Conrad. He's not coming back later on. Like, oh, it was only a small helmeting.
Just when I thought I was out, they helmeted me back in.
Just when I thought I was out. It's Bob Dylan playing all the parts.
Yes.
Oh no, the head of a horse. The whole thing is a sort of weird fake. You know, it's full of things that look like stone but are really plaster or paper mache, papier mache.
Ouais.
Walpole wrote that my buildings, like my writings, are of paper and will blow away 10 years after I am dead. Which is not quite true because the building is still there. But unfortunately, his vast collection of art and treasures and oddities has been sold or lost. If you go there, it makes the place even weirder because it's got these just empty rooms. There's just nothing in most of the rooms. And he used to have loads of great stuff. He used to have Dr. D's magical speculum.
Wait a minute.
Not the kind of speculum you might be visualizing.
Good. Is that the bit between the front and the back?
It is an obsidian scrying mirror, now in the British Museum.
And when you use it to look where?
He owned a wooden cravat. Yeah, you heard me, nice. James. A wooden cravat. This guy was off the hook.
I like that. I like a wooden cravat. It was
carved by Grinling Gibbons, the incredibly talented woodcarver, so it looked like lacework. And he would wear it. And he'd be like, what do you think of my lace cravat? And they'd be like, yeah, normal. And then he'd be like, it's made of wood.
Knock, knock.
I'm actually wearing a wooden cravat.
I've got splinters all over my chin.
He had a china goldfish bowl wherein, tragically, his beloved cat, Selena, drowned trying to catch goldfish. In the end, it was the goldfish who were victorious. And James, that means that the cat sleeps with the fishes, I just realised.
Oh, the cat sleeps with the fishes.
So he created a magical place, a magical fabrication, I suppose, and filled it with stuff that appealed to him. And crucially, not everyone liked it. He asked, I think, a French woman, Lady Hollande, or Holland, I guess, how she liked Strawberry Hill, and he writes, she owned, she did not approve of it, and that it was not digne de la solidité anglaise, or I think roughly translated via the old Ask Jeeves, worthy of English solidity. So yeah, it was too frivolous, it was too silly and funny, and he was not at all bothered by that, and he goes on for several pages about how didn't even bother him. He in fact he was laughing.
Well, I know that's the sort of vibe of someone who perhaps does care, but to be honest, I think he should have known he's going to have a silly house if he's like knocking around with a wooden cravat. He writes, it made me laugh for a quarter of an hour, which is longer than I believe he actually laughed for. Like, I like a good laugh, but a quarter of an hour, 15 minutes. Lots to think about there. Yes. Yeah. And so the building is still there, the Strawberry Hill house?
Yes, the building is still there.
You can go and look at it.
Inside all gone. You can go and look at it. You can walk around in it? Largely empty rooms. Yes, you can. Really? Was it like National Trust, or are you breaking and entering? No, it's not urban exploration. No, it's you're allowed. You're allowed. They've got carpets and everything. Oh, not for long. When you've been in there, is that why it's cleared out? Have you been? Did you go around with a van? Are you accusing me of being a carpet thief? Yes. Is this an established backstory that I have that I've forgotten about? No. I just added a new thing to the mix. Time-travelling vampiric carpet thief. I seem like a carpet thief. The kind of guy. Make sure that carpet is properly tacked down. Watch your carpets, here comes ABK. And to the next episode then, Alistair, number 5. Well, this is one of your stories, James. It is. It is from August. Series 4, episode 54. It's got a special guest. It's got Yuriko Kotani, and we chat about the Tanuki, in which I do some wonderful acting and also baffle myself and you with taxonomy. I have since looked it up. Well, let's listen to the episode. I'll do my clarifications at the end. Yeah, explain afterwards. And what we're going to be talking about this time is sort of a yokai. It's the Tanuki. I've heard that word before. You have? Have you heard it? Where have you heard it? I have heard it in a little-known indie franchise called Super Mario the Plumber. Super Mario Plumbers. That's what it's called, Super Mario Plumbers. Mario become Tanuki. Tanuki Mario. I have to be clear. From me, it was Raccoon Mario because that's what it said. Yes. And I would say to my mum, when I played it on the Super Nintendo or SNES, he's become a raccoon and now he can fly. And she would say, why can a raccoon fly? And I would say, oh, Mum, with his tail. Obviously. And now in retrospect, that doesn't make any sense. So please explain that. Well, the Tanuki is a Japanese raccoon dog. Wait, it's a dog? It's a raccoon dog? It's referred to as a raccoon dog. And I've done some cursory research on the various forms of dog-like creature, which runs the full gamut from polar bear, the biggest. What? All the way down to the smallest, the least weasel. The smallest dog is called the least weasel. Yeah. A polar bear has a dog? That's mind-blowing information. I knew it. I knew that bears were dogs because bears look like people in dog costumes. I've said it before and I'll say it again. But if a bear tells you, leave me alone, you leave it alone. Definitely. I mean, they are massive. On People in Bear Costume News, there was a recent report. There was a recent news story. Is this? I think this is really serious news if it's the story I have heard also. About the sun bear in China. Nope, that's a totally different story. Carry on. There's a load of people saw a bear in a zoo in China standing on its hind legs, and because of the way its skin folded up at the back and it was stood up very straight, it did very much look like a human in a bear costume. And that became a story in the news. As spokesman pointed out, it was 40 degrees heat. If there had been a human in a bear costume, they would have died. It's just science.
Yeah, it's simple science.
My shockingly similar story was there was a news report about a Japanese guy who has a very realistic dog costume that he wears.
Oh, is that the collie man?
Yeah, and it's been reported as Japanese man dresses up as border collie, and it's nonsense because it's not a border collie, it's a rough collie. He looks like Lassie. Border collies are black and white. It's ridiculous. Get your facts straight, the internet. It's not a border collie.
Yeah, details, please.
So this story is confusingly called Mujina, which is the name of a Japanese badger rather than a tanuki, which is also a real creature and also a folkloric creature that's a shapeshifter that's cheeky. But at one point, basically, Mujina and tanuki were interchangeable words, even though they actually referred to different animals.
Right.
But in this case, Lafcadio Hearn is referring to a tanuki. It's very confusing.
I'm Googling Mujina right now.
Mujina, the Japanese badger. Got it? Because it's not that. It's still a tanuki.
Just Google a picture of a badger and then immediately dismiss that from your mind because that isn't it.
Oh, we have a word. 同じ穴のMujina. Same whole Mujina. We got a phrase which I knew.
What does that mean?
Means even though they're not related, it's nothing to do with you, but actually it's same.
Wikipedia puts it, I think, the most succinctly but confusingly. A Mujina is an old Japanese term primarily referring to the Japanese badger, but traditionally to the Japanese raccoon dog, tanuki, causing confusion. Adding to the confusion, it may also refer to the masked palm civet. Great. So there's three animals that it could be. Two of which are mythological. And in this case, as we'll find out when we read the story, it's referring to a shape-shifting animal that is never in its non-shape-shifted form. Okay, so Mujina. This is a story from someone who died 30 years previously. So let's say, as a rough guess, Lafcadio heard it around 1895. So this is someone who died by 1865, and it happened to them when they were younger. So we're talking early 1800s. And this guy, at a very late hour, was walking up the Akasaka Road in Tokyo, up a slope called the Ki no Kunizaka. And there is an ancient moat, which was very deep and very wide, with very high banks on it. And as he was passing that, he saw a woman crouching by the side of the moat, all on her own, crying quite a lot, weeping bitterly.
I know you should be sympathetic in that situation, but my suspicions are instantly aroused.
He was concerned, this guy. He was maybe...
You're a better man than me, this guy.
He said, "Oh, Jochu." I hope that's not a demeaning or offensive term.
Did he add that? Very, very woke historical Japanese man.
"Tell me what the trouble is, and if there be any way to help you, I shall be glad to help you." And it says here, he really meant what he said, for he was a very kind man. Just to really sort of hammer it home against you, it seems like.
Yes, I didn't realise the story was going to go out of its way to make me look bad.
And she continued to weep, hiding her face from him in her sleeves. And he said, "Please, listen to me. This is no place for a young lady at night. Do not cry, I implore you. Tell me how I may be of some help to you." And she slowly rose up with her back turned to him, continuing to moan and sob. And he put his hand lightly on her shoulder and said, listen to me. And then she turned, dropped her sleeve, stroked her face with her hand, and the man saw that she had no eyes or nose or mouth.
Oh, what?
And he screamed and ran away. She was please correct me, Yuriko. She was a...
Noperabo.
Noperabo, yes.
What's a noperabo? I'm not saying it right, but I'm scared. Noperabo?
Yes. Noperabo.
It's basically got no face. It's got a head with no features at all.
So, so not holes, not voids, but just blank.
Just smooth like an egg.
Yep.
Ooh, like my face.
But without beard.
Without the beard. My face without a beard. Completely blank and featureless.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, how terrifying.
He ran away.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly. He ran and ran, never looked back. Then he saw a lantern far away.
This is why you should never help anyone. Every one of these stories teaches the same lesson, and it's just don't help people.
Just please don't help
Please
people,
don't help
especially
anyone.
at night. But he saw a lantern and he ran towards it, and it turned out to be the lantern of an itinerant soba seller. Sobas are kind of noodles, right? So this is basically a fast food vendor.
Yeah.
Very sophisticated, Japan having fast food in like 1860.
Fast noodles.
Like the London equivalent would have just been a man in a hole with some hot fat, like some offal, maybe some tepid offal that he would have slapped you. He would have just slapped at you with his hands. No implements, nothing. Just hand slapping.
So he got over to the soba seller.
Tuppence a slap.
And he's just flung himself down at his feet, crying out, ah, ah, ah. And the soba man said, Kore, here. What's the matter with you? Anybody hurt you? He says, no, nobody hurt me. Only scared you? Queried the peddler. Robbers? No, not robbers. I saw a woman by the moat, and she showed me. Oh, I can't tell you what she showed me. Was it anything like this that she showed you? Said the sober man, stroking his own face, which therewith became like unto an egg.
It didn't become unto like an egg, did it, James?
And simultaneously, the light went out.
Terrifying. This is really scary. I thought there was going to be a fun monkey thing in it.
Nope. Just scary egg-faced people.
So how many Noperabo did we have? We've got the first woman, who
Yes.
I have to say, I was immediately suspicious of. I thought she was a raccoon or something, and she was going to have a monkey's face. Oh, no, not a monkey. What are they? Dogs. Raccoons.
Maybe a
raccoons.
raccoon.
They're raccoons. And then there's the soba seller. Very convenient, but terrifying.
Yep.
Yes.
So 3, maybe 3 out of 5, because there were 3.
There were
Noperabo.
3, as far as we know.
Oh.
Because they could be anywhere.
They could be anywhere.
In fact, Alistair, I've turned my camera off for this. I imagine if I could reveal myself to have an egg for a face.
That'd be so terrifying. Have you set that up?
No, I haven't actually.
No.
I've just thought about it now.
It would have been chilling. I think. What is that? What are we seeing?
It's my thumb.
That's your thumb.
It's my thumb.
Wow. How you've?
I just put it near the camera.
Yeah.
Did it look like this, thumb? It's easy to do on a Zoom call, actually. You could be a Noperabo. Any one of us could be a Noperabo on a Zoom call.
I'll make it a 4, James, because you went to the trouble of impersonating an Noperabo yourself.
So back there, when I said I seemed to imply that the polar bear was the biggest dog and the least weasel was the smallest dog. It's it's not quite as clean cut as that. So it seems, from my cursory research, that carnivores are split into 2 main families, the caniforms and the feliforms. So like feliforms, which you don't want to feel, because that includes the tiger.
I want to feel a tiger.
It's broadly cat-like and dog-like, but to say that the polar bear is the biggest dog, that's misleading at best.
I can't believe you would say something that was technically not 100% accurate on the podcast, James.
Well, I think I made up for it with my wonderful acting.
Yeah, what a great Noperabo impression.
Thank you very much.
So who's next?
Well, I don't know if you remember, we didn't just put out podcasts this year. We did some field reports too. And you did one whilst on your holidays.
In Cornwall.
In Britain's Cornwall district.
Yes, in Cornwall's glittering Cornwall.
Yeah, the pasty quarter of Britain. And to kind of get you in the mood for that, I told you a story about Cornwall's Loneliest Vicar in Series 4, Episode 48.
Just to establish the vibe I would have in Cornwall. A lonely, bitter character.
Yeah. No, in 1931, in Warligan, in Cornwall, the Reverend Frederick William Densham took over the reins of a church, the Holy Reins.
Yeah. He hopped into the vestments.
Yeah, of St Bartholomew's. It's on the edge of Bodmin.
The moor.
The moor.
Just jumping in with some facts that I know. That's a moor.
At one point, it was the remotest town in Cornwall until they built a road. Then it became less remote.
Hold on. Does that mean there were no towns? Remotest from where? Anywhere?
I think it was difficult to get to.
Right. Because there's surely towns to the west of it.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be more remote from me, where I am now.
I think we've had a few of these places. It seems to be the thing in Cornwall.
To be the most remote.
You're the most remote. And the locals initially found him to be a little bit strange, but they came to accept him. They come to regret it in the way that there's that comedic trope that when you first meet someone and their idiosyncrasies are quite cute and then after a bit you come to resent them and you know that trope.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Bit like that, but with a vicar.
Right. So what were his eccentricities and idiosyncrasies?
He hated organ music.
Oh!
He stopped Sunday school.
What?
Yep.
I mean, both of these things rule so far, I have to say. These sound tolerable.
He refused to hold services at convenient times.
Refused to hold them at convenient times?
Yep. He had very strong views against smoking, drinking, gambling, and all forms of entertainment.
And anything fun? Yep. Okay.
Saying they were not in the Bible, so could not be right.
Okay, but it was the olden days in the Bible, wasn't it? There's loads of things that aren't in the Bible.
Yeah. Imagine if he was confronted with a DVD of the film Goodfellas. Blow his mind.
I tell you what he wouldn't do. He would not pirate that DVD.
So this guy was believed to have taught in India, and he was a big fan of Gandhi.
He was a fandy.
Yes.
He was part of the Gandam. The Gandhi fandom.
Yep, that makes sense. He named one of his Alsatians after it because shortly after he moved into the rectory, and this might have been one of the things that started to turn people against him, he bought a litter of Alsatians and just let them roam around the village.
What? Well, it's just a pack of wild dogs?
Just a pack of wild dogs. Until one of them, Gandhi, killed a sheep.
That is very un-Gandhi.
It's very un-Gandhi. So what Reverend Densham did is he built an 8-foot-high barbed wire fence around the rectory.
Around the ships?
No, around his own house.
Oh, around his own house. Okay, that makes sense. I would have just built a large fence around each individual sheep. But I suppose you do you.
Nice one, Densham. But then that meant that people couldn't come and visit their vicar very easily because he was now protected by...
an 8-foot wall. Yeah.
And a pack of dogs.
It'd be like The Great Escape, but in reverse, like trying to get into a prisoner of war camp. Oh, you speak very good Alsatian. Well, thank you very much. Oh, damn! I nearly got in.
He also painted the walls of the church red, yellow, and blue to try and perk people up.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I bet they loved that.
They didn't, actually.
Okay.
2 years into his tenure...
He was murdered and no one saw anything.
They tried to sack him.
Yeah?
Yeah, they went to the bishop or whatever, and they had an investigation, and he argued that he'd done nothing wrong in ecclesiastical law, and he was exonerated.
Yeah, there's nothing in the Bible against painting walls a colour that upsets people, is there? Or having a big wall around your dogs.
It did come out also that when the secretary of the church council tried to stop him from improving the church, Reverend Densham threatened to kill him.
Ah, okay.
Still fine, though, turns out.
Still fine? Yeah? Is that fine?
Yeah.
There's nothing in the Bible against killing people, is there?
Or threatening to kill people, maybe. He's got us on a technicality there.
Yeah.
The entire church council resigned, and people just stopped coming to church. And this is the 30s, like...
Yeah.
Church is a big thing. They haven't got DVDs of Goodfellas.
We've established that they did not have DVDs.
Legal or illegal.
They didn't even have pirate DVDs.
So he preached to an empty church for 20 years.
20 years?
20 years.
Do we think he really did the sermons with no one in there?
Well, yes. He made cardboard cutouts of the congregation.
This is very odd behaviour.
Yeah. He kept a meticulous log. And here's a couple of examples.
Say what you will about him. Kept a meticulous log.
As in a diary. Not because given how this bloke's going, it could have been a bit of wood.
Could have been a small piece. Darn it.
Ever so clean. Actually, he smashed up all the furniture and ripped up all the floorboards for his fire because he constantly complained about the cold. He's a very peculiar figure. So going back to his...
Yeah, I'm just not sure everything's going that well there.
No. Well, here's a couple of examples of what was in this log. No fog, no wind, no rain, no congregation. Or it would say, severe gale with hail, very cold, no congregation. He made these sort of wooden cardboard figurines of congregation, and he wrote like little name slips of previous vicars. This is according to the Independent on Sunday from 1981. There was an article about him.
He can't still have been in office by the 80s.
Then. No. No. This seemed to have been an article because an American book came out called The Mad Emperor of the USA and Other Great Eccentrics.
I see.
So he's mentioned in this book. To be honest, I feel... I mean, this is a Independent on Sunday. I feel this article is a little bit of filler.
It's not front page news. 30 years ago, Vicar, odd.
Was strange.
Vicar was strange.
The final sentence is, however, the truth behind the legend is unlikely to be discovered now, and perhaps it's better left that way. It's not really incisive journalism. Do you want a little bonus Ghost Vicar while we're here?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, please, yeah. I mean, that was just very sad. That was very sad. Is this Ghost Vicar going to be more upbeat? Because that one was...
Oh, yeah, big time.
A bit of a bummer. Okay, great.
Yeah. This one's from the 1300s. Ralph de Trema. His ghost can apparently be seen from time to time. He was a heretic. He apparently did the Black Mass.
Oh, they wouldn't like that in the Bodmin region.
And burned the host.
Burning the host? That's Jesus' body. If you're a Catholic in those days.
The last two things might not be true, but he was one of the vicars at the time that was like, this thing about transubstantiation thing is that can't be right. He got in trouble.
Right, so he didn't believe that the host was literally the body of Christ, so maybe he burned it to make that point. That was quite a sticking point at the time.
It wasn't the only thing he burned. He resigned in 1334 from being a vicar, but he did return to the vicarage to rob the next vicar and burn it down.
What? It's like, so this is vicarage. That's your room. That lock doesn't really work, but I won't worry about that. So you got my number if you need anything.
No, I can't smell smoke. See ya. Jingled off down the path.
Ching, 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 ching.
Do you want my theory to blow this case wide open? So that vicar, Densham, it said that when he made his congregation, he also would write down the names of previous vicars and sort of label some of his faux congregation with those names. Maybe somehow
one of those congregants could have been the heretical
Ralph de Trema. Yeah,
Ralph de Trema,
and he maybe somehow using the power, I don't know, a black magic or something.
Yeah.
Maybe accidentally brought him back.
Clearly, and he probably animated the effigy made naively in sort of straw and cardboard.
Exactly.
Probably appeared to him on the landing.
Oh, well, I thought maybe like he was doing the church service and like the cardboard head slumped down and he went to grab it and paper cut of a finger, dripped a little bit of blood on it.
Ah, classic, yeah.
And then, that night, he hears a rustling.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cardboard gargoyle coming for him.
Yeah, 2 eyes made of wafers.
Yes, probably.
Made of communion wafers. A mouth drenched with communion wine.
We can't know that didn't happen.
It definitely happened, James. I visualised it when you described it. It clearly happened.
Yeah. So that's the story of Cornwall's loneliest vicar. And I don't think anything Einstein did could have been taken badly. Could have been misused. In cinemas now. Right. So, you ready to score?
Did you see that Christopher Nolan said of Oppenheimer that like he was the darkest character of any of his films, even darker than Batman? It's like,
whoa.
Do you realise that Oppenheimer's a real person? You imagine just like he created the bomb It's such a big deal. It's almost insulting to go like, wow, this is actually almost as serious as Batman. 3 films I made about a man who dresses as a bat to punch people. Wow. This atom bomb stuff is a big deal.
But there's that bit, isn't there, when I don't know if it's in Batman Begins, and he's like, the criminal's like, who are you? And he comes down and goes, I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Master Oppenheimer, I know you've made a bomb and you regret it, but we'll have to keep going.
I don't want to bury another Oppenheimer.
Some people just want to see the enemies of America burn. Let's do the scores.
Why so physicist? That was it. That was all I could think of.
That's very good. He was a very odd fellow.
He was. It seems to be a slightly accursed parish with the other guy who was doing the Black Mass and eating. What was he? He ate the Holy Host. No, he chucked it in the fire. You're supposed to eat it.
You're meant to eat the host. You're meant to eat the host. It sounds wrong, but that's what it says in the instructions.
But not cook it.
So, James, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're staying in Cornwall for the 3rd top episode of the year.
Yes. It's a tale from you, from your own research.
No, well, thank you very much.
It's series 4, episode 49, the very next episode, The Ghostbusting Parsons of Penzance.
Well, I must say I found the people of Penzance, I found the people of Cornwall in general to be very sweet.
Yes.
At one end, but actually savoury at the other end. It's another Cornish pasty crack. I did have a vegan Cornish pasty.
Oh, good.
In the Telegraph Museum.
What?
Yeah.
The newspaper?
Not the newspaper, the concept of the Telegraph, the concept of an undersea cable connecting Britain with Canada, America, India, and some other places.
And what, did they have bits of it?
Oh, yeah. Just west of Penzance is where all of those cables used to, and to some extent still do, come inland. Where young, clean-shaven men would sit in a cave, literally during the wars, and just listen to beep 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 beep.
That's not music. That's just a noise.
You know what the kids like, James?
Those kids.
Those crazy 1940s kids. Now, Mrs. Baines lived on Chapel Street, which is the oldest street in Penzance, and it used to be called Our Lady's Street, I assume because it's right next to St. Mary's Churchyard.
Not because it was named by a Geordie.
Our Lady's Street. Near Voundervore Lane.
Ooh.
Which presumably is a lane leading towards Voundervore, which means the Great Road in Cornish, which is the road connecting Penzance to Mousehole, or was then.
Mousehold for any of
I'm pronouncing it Mousehole because it's written Mousehole.
It is mouse. It does look like a mouse hole, but surely that can't be right.
If you're driving on the way, there's a sign that says height restriction, Mousehole, and it's like, I shouldn't think so because they're really little. But when I said that to the driver, I didn't find that funny at all on the bus. I was like, I shouldn't think so because they're really small.
Did he just tap the sign that said people should not stand in front of this sign or speak to the driver?
Yep. Yes, he did. And which is a real feat these days because they've got bulletproof glass.
Is he had a really long thing? He poked it out through the air hole.
Yeah, he was like Eugene Toombs from the X-Files. She decided to teach him a lesson. She herself crept out in her bedclothes into the orchard at night. And started a shaking of one of the apple trees, a shaky, 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 and the apples started falling to the ground.
Classic scrump technique.
Yeah, just your basic scrumping.
Yeah.
And according to Billy Botts, the rustling of shaken branches and noise of falling apples awoke him. And seeing somebody, as he thought, stealing apples from their favourite tree. Yeah, I think you see where this is going, James.
Yeah.
He up with his gun and let fly at his mistress, exclaiming at the same time, "Now, you thief, I've paid ye off for keeping me out of bed to watch ye. I know ye I do, and I will bring ye before his worship the mayor tomorrow."
That wasn't 1, 2, 3.
They didn't actually say 1, 2, 3, it seems. He said a real long paragraph. And she replied, "Lord help me, I'm killed," and fell onto the ground.
Oh, no. These old-timey people were... I suppose it's the old Twitter. They like to just constantly commentate on their lives.
Yep, that's her taking selfies with the apples. So I can't believe shot by own gardener.
Dead.
Hashtag what? Hashtag literally killed.
Hashtag I am killed.
Everybody knew the old lady by her upturned and powdered grey hair under a lace cap of antique pattern, by the long lace ruffles hanging from her elbows, her short silk mantle, gold-headed cane and other trappings of old-fashioned pomp. There are many still living in Penzance who remember the time when they wouldn't venture on any account to pass through Vandervoort Lane after nightfall for fear of Mrs. Baines's ghost. Sometimes she would flutter up from the garden or yard, just like an old hen, and perch herself on the wall. Then for an instant one might get a glance of her spindle legs and high-heeled shoes before she vanished.
Ooh. Oh, that's very Wicked Witchy, isn't it?
Yeah, she moved unusually from being a visible ghost to going full poltergeist.
Oh.
And she also moved from the garden into the house. She started smashing things, doors, glass, her spinning wheel could be heard. Spinning. That's an example of what that might have sounded like.
Yeah.
So, James, here we are. There's something strange in the neighbourhood of Vandervoort Lane. Who are you going to call?
I don't know.
Parson Singleton. It's Parson Singleton. Even after she was laid, the sound of her spinning wheel, remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
You remember? People of the house continued to hear it until, at last, it was discovered that some leather, which had been nailed around a door to keep out drafts, was loose in places, and that the whistling of the wind through this made the peculiar sound.
Ow.
Sorry, kids.
It's haunted leather.
Yeah, it was just noisy leather. Just squeaky. You know the way leather trousers go?
Yes.
It's the same as that, but for doors.
When sometimes you sit in a fancy chair, you have to say, it was the chair.
It was the chair. It was the door. It wasn't a ghost, it was the door. Now, do you remember I mentioned St. Mary's Churchyard?
Yes.
Nearby.
Yeah.
Full name, St. Mary the Virgin Church. Yeah.
Having a right old dig.
It's been there for a while, but the current church was built in 1835. And I can tell you, James, it looks brand new. That was the first thing I said when I saw it. It looks brand new. All sharp edges.
Spanking.
It looks like it was made of Lego. I thought it was fake. And I was saying this so loudly, a helpful churchman, just a man who was standing in the churchyard, came over to explain.
Oh, really? So the opposite of the old bus driver earlier?
Yeah, he tapped a sign saying, "I'm actually happy to talk to you. You're not in London now."
A medal around his neck that said, "Please stand in front of this sign and talk to me."
He explained that the rock there is very, very hard. So while you and I, James, might be used to saying churches made of, workable sandstone.
Yeah, your sandstones.
Full of intricate carvings.
Yeah.
Gargoyles. Grotesques. Yes, there is a difference.
Grotesques are really rubbish ones.
It's not like that in Penzance.
No.
The stone is so hard that it's relatively flat. It's relatively undetailed. So the church still looks brand new, even though it was built in 1835. It just doesn't have any fiddly bits. I can't back all of that up. Some of that was just told to me by a man.
That was told to a man in a churchyard.
So there was a ghost in St. Mary's Churchyard around about the same time as Mrs. Baines walked abroad on a nearby lane, and people would avoid walking through the churchyard at night.
Would it tell them facts about stone? Because I think I might be putting two and two together.
James, wow. I'm genuine. If it were any less hot, I would have had chills. I'm boiling. People were afraid to walk through St. Mary's Churchyard, but not one jolly Jack Tar. Not one bold sailor. He wasn't afraid of ghosts. One dark and rainy night, a sailor who neither knew nor cared anything about the ghost of St. Mary's, in taking the shortcut...
Just a quick question. Do you know you're doing an accent, or is it like sometimes when you've been there so long, you've just picked it up?
I've just gone local, yes.
It's very good. Don't get me wrong.
What happened? I forgot where we were.
Sorry, I interrupted.
He was taking a shortcut through the chapel yard. He came as far as the chapel porch when the ghost issued forth on the path and stood there bobbing its head and waving its shroudings before him.
Ooh.
The sailor said, I'm going to make the sailor a Geordie. I don't have any evidence, but I sort of feel like he's a Geordie because what he says is, hello, Halloa. Hello? Who or what are you? Said the sailor. I am one of the dead, the ghost answered. If you are one of the dead, what the deuce do you do here above ground? Go along down below, said the sailor. And what he did was punch the ghost in the head. He decked him, James.
Wow.
Did you say decked in school?
Yes, yeah.
In down south? Yeah, he decked him. He laid him out.
Decked him?
He just decked him.
He's totally decked him.
He's just decked the lad.
He's just decked a ghost.
He's decked him. It's the word's lost all meaning. I've said it too many times. He decked him. What is the devil afraid of, James?
I don't know. Give me a second.
Okay.
Let me think it through.
All right, but every second you waste, that bird is making annoying noises. Think about that.
People looking at his feet. Eggs?
Close.
Oh?
Surprisingly close. It's unbaptized babies.
Really?
Yeah, everyone knows that. Yeah, yes.
He must have loads. He must be thick with them.
Yep, everyone knows the devil is afraid of unbaptized babies. And, of course, it comes to him. He slaps his forehead and he goes, unbaptized babies, he says aloud. And his clerk interrupts and says, bless me sure, 'tis a wonder I didn't think of that before. Now, I'm not doing the accent now. It's written like this.
Right.
Why, old people, who are the only ones that know anything, say a babe in a house is more used to keep evil spirits out of than a 5-pointed star cut on the doorsill or any number of horseshoes nailed to the lintel. Offensive?
Yes.
Okay. Very hard to read because it's written in dialect. I've got yet more Ghost Lane Parsons for you, James.
GLPs?
Yeah, this is the story of Wild Harris, the Bookaboo.
What?
Well, I think it might be the origin of the word boogaboo.
Oh.
Bookaboo is an evil spirit, or bookadoo. D-H-U, meaning black spirit, evil spirit.
Right.
In the Cornish language.
And is it the origin of the game Buckaroo?
Could be.
Let's see how much he manages to balance on this ghost.
There is a horse involved. Wild Harris is the ghost of Kenneggy Manor, also known as the Squire's Spirit.
Oh.
According to Margaret Ann Courtney.
That's one person, right?
Yes. He was killed while hunting when he fell from his horse. The horse was startled by a white hare, which is believed to be the spirit of a deserted maiden which crossed its path.
H-A-R-E, hare, obviously.
He had loved a damsel who was an orphan, but his father and cruel housekeeper schemed against her, and one day she turned up drowned, only perhaps to return in the form of a rabbit, which precipitated the death of Wild Harris himself.
Oh, an omen rabbit. Bright eyes.
Presumably red-eyed, we don't know. According to Bottrell, on winter's nights, the squire's ghost, with a dozen or more of his old comrades, in inverted commas, or such-like spirits, would assemble in the Bowling Green summer house, where they might be seen and heard from the mansion even, talking, singing, and I'm sorry to say, James, swearing. Yeah. And shouting in a state of uproarious mirth.
What's he so pleased about, this ghost, this naughty ghost?
He was a party guy. He was a bedlam boy. He was a hoodlum. So he'd ride about hunting as a ghost. He'd go about drinking with his pals as a ghost. Nothing anyone could do could stop it. No, lesser Parsons tried and failed to lay the spectre. Enter Parson Polkinghorn.
What?
It's Parson Polkinghorn. James is not afraid of any ghosts.
He is not afraid of no ghosts.
No, he isn't. He ain't afraid of no ghosts.
I'm not afraid of any ghosts. There's an invisible man sleeping in your bed. Who are you going to call?
Well, what blooming hell is he doing in there?
How do you even know?
That is inappropriate. Oh.
No, that invisible man is cancelled.
Who be ye intending to call?
Oh, yeah.
That's how a pirate would, or a farmer might say it.
This is the episode that I think, if you were going to ever use an episode to get yourself, it's a voice reel for you.
Yeah. Yes, it is. I can play so many characters. I play, I think, a flap of leather at one point.
Yeah.
A spinning wheel.
A spinning wheel. A flap of leather that's mistaken for a ghost of a spinning wheel. You play a Cornish pirate, a Geordie sailor.
Well, it is award season, so, get listening and nominate me for any of the available awards.
Best voices and noises.
Best noises in a podcast medium, ABK.
So, we're up to the top 2.
We're down to the final 2. Whoa.
The final 2 from the top 14
tension.
Episodes.
Okay.
I'll tee you up and you could say it's from the 18th of May, Series 4, Episode 45. It's...
The Croglin Grange Vampire.
The Croglin Grange Vampire.
It's not even true, this one.
No, but it's a really
Just
good
goes
story.
to show that people do not care.
Maybe it's the more fake they are, the better the storytelling is, because you can...
Perhaps that's the problem, yeah. The more lies there are, the more narratively satisfying the story is. He was obviously known in his time, and I think basically it kind of looks like there was a game on to see how ridiculous a story you could get into one of Augustus Hare's books by telling it to him.
Oh, right.
If that was a game, it has been won by Captain Fisher Rowe of Thorncombe in Guildford.
Oh, go on.
Formerly, of course, the Fishers were of Croglin Grange in Cumberland.
Croglin.
Croglin, like a boglin.
But a crog rather than a bog.
Yeah.
Is that a posh toilet or a less posh toilet? Is it right to say crog or bog?
Cumberland, of course, is now Cumbria, which is annoying because Northumbria is now Northumberland. Come on.
They've switched.
That's just really irritating. That's not neat. Croglin Grange itself was a one-story house.
What a story.
The end. Captain Fisher's family had left it because they were moving up in the world. They went off to Guildford or something.
Fancy.
And they let it to some tenants, 2 brothers and a sister. It was a blazingly hot summer one year, the first year that they were living there. And the sister couldn't sleep. She hadn't even closed her shutters because it was so hot. And I'm going to read you the story in quite a lot of detail because it's pretty good. But feel free to jump in with gags if you get the opportunity.
Certainly.
When they separated for the night, all retiring to their rooms on the ground floor, for as I said, there was no upstairs in that house.
It's a bungalow.
The sister felt that the heat was still so great that she could not sleep, and having fastened her window, she did not close the shutters. In that very quiet place, it was not necessary. And propped against the pillows, she still watched the wonderful, the marvellous beauty of that summer night. Gradually, she became aware of 2 lights which flickered in and out of the belt of trees which separated the lawn from the churchyard. And as her gaze became fixed upon them, she saw them emerge, fixed in a dark substance, a definite, ghastly something, which seemed every moment to become nearer, increasing in size and substance as it approached. Every now and then it was lost for a moment in the long shadows which stretched across the lawn from the trees, and then it emerged, larger than ever and still coming on. As she watched it, the most uncontrollable horror seized her. She longed to get away, but the door was close to the window, and the door was locked on the inside.
Oh.
And while she was unlocking it, she must be, for an instant, nearer to it. She longed to scream, but her voice seemed paralyzed, her tongue glued to the roof of her mouth. It comes closer and closer, James. A horrible thing with its nasty little face and its flaming eyes.
Yeah.
Until she hears scratch, scratch, scratch upon the window. Scratch, scratch, scratch. I mean, it's a bit like that other story of Augustus Hare where the scratch, scratch, scratch. But
yeah, with the
scratch. Just ignore that.
Got into a scratching.
Yeah.
He had a pet donkey as well.
She felt a sort of mental comfort in the knowledge that the window was securely fastened on the inside. Suddenly the scratching sound ceased, and a kind of pecking sound took its place.
Oh.
Then in her agony she became aware that the creature was unpicking the lead. Of course, it was the olden days, so it's one of those leaded windows with little diamond-shaped pieces of glass. Yeah, it picks away the lead, and the tiny diamond-shaped pane of glass falls into the room.
Clunk.
Blink. And then
long bony finger of the creature came in and turned the handle of the window, and the window opened, and the creature came in, and it came across the room, and her terror was so great that she could not scream, and it came up to the bed, and it twisted its long bony fingers into her hair, and it dragged her head over the side of the bed, and it bit her violently in the throat.
I honestly thought she was going to get away.
Yeah.
First time I read it.
She really doesn't.
Eventually, she does manage to scream. The boys hear the scream. They come pounding in. The door's locked. They kick down the door. The creature, I assume it goes in some way, shoots back out the window and disappears into the night.
Right.
She's in a swoon, completely passed out. But eventually, she wakes up, and I think this demonstrates Augustus's gift for natural dialogue. Mm-hmm. She wakes up and immediately says, "What has happened is most extraordinary, and I am very much hurt. It seems inexplicable, but of course there is an explanation, and we must wait for it. It will turn out that a lunatic has escaped from some asylum and found his way here."
Oh.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Doesn't sound like she's in shock.
She sounds fine.
Yeah.
And so naturally they go to Switzerland to get away from Croglin Grange for a bit and allow her to recover. She seems fine. After a while, she insists that they return to Croglin Grange.
Just as a little aside, the R&R in the past was way more flamboyant.
Just going to Switzerland, yeah.
Yeah, like now, if I feel a bit ill, it's like I might spend a day watching the telly under a duvet on the sofa.
You wouldn't go to Switzerland and dry plants, make sketches and go up mountains, which is exactly what she did.
Unlikely.
To recover from vampire attack.
Although, to be fair, I've not been attacked by a vampire, so I don't know how that would affect me.
Well, like you, James, she was level-headed and brave and decided she had to return. "We have taken it," she said, "for 7 years, and we have only been there 1. And she goes on to say, they'll have difficulty letting it because it's only 1 story high, so we'd better return. After all, she reasons, lunatics do not escape every day.
Uh-oh. I've got a feeling.
You got a feeling?
That might be portentous.
Well, they return to the house.
Did she say touch wood at the end?
I think she turned to her others and she said, "I definitely won't be attacked by a vampire again."
Cool.
Crossfade. It's March. She's getting ready for bed. Now, of course, she's not superstitious, but she's cautious. She closes the shutters. But they're the kind of shutters that don't go all the way up to the top.
Those peekaboo shutters.
In the following March, the sister was suddenly awakened by a sound she remembered only too well. Scratch, scratch, scratch upon the window. And looking up, she saw, climbed up to the topmost pane of the window. James, it's the vampire again.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry to inform you. It's the vampire again. In it comes, kapow. But this time, they're ready for it. The door isn't locked. The brothers have moved to closer 2 rooms. So they're in there in time. They're sleeping, James, with a pistol under their pillow. So they come in USA style, you know?
Yeah.
Kapow! Pachoo!
Ting! Hold on, I've got to reload.
One of the brothers fired and hit it in the leg, but still with the other leg, it continued to make way, scrambled over the wall into the churchyard, and seemed to disappear into a vault, which belonged to a family long extinct. The next day, the brothers summoned all the tenants of Croglin Grange, and in their presence the vault was opened. A horrible scene revealed itself. The vault was full of coffins. They had been broken open and their contents, horribly mangled and distorted, were scattered all over the floor. 1 coffin alone remained intact. Of that the lid had been lifted, but still lay loose upon the coffin. They raised it, and there, brown, withered, shriveled, mummified, but quite entire, was the same hideous figure which had looked in at the window of Croglin Grange, with the marks of a recent pistol shot in the leg. And they did the only thing that can lay a vampire. They burned it.
Oh, okay. It's not the only thing, as far as I know.
Yeah, I know.
I can think of at least 3 others.
And she specifically didn't invite it in. It doesn't quite fit into the vampire mythos.
But maybe that's what makes it more realistic.
That's what makes it so definitely just And I will just add the little footnote that Charles G. Harper, of Haunted Houses fame, went there, and it's clearly not true.
Oh.
There's not even a place called Croglin Grange.
What? It's such a great name.
There are says Charles G. Harper. Croglin High Hall and Low Hall, both are farmhouses, very like one another, and not in any particulars resembling the description given.
Oh.
Croglin Low Hall is probably the house indicated, but it's at least a mile distant from the church, which has been rebuilt. The churchyard contains no tomb, which by any stretch of the imagination could be identified with that described by Mr. Hare.
Uh-oh. Charles.
Chucky G.
Chucky G, you've ruined it for everyone.
You've ruined the vibe.
Or is he in the pocket of Big Vampire?
Of Big Vampire, yeah. Yeah, I tell you what, is that the sound of something being carefully hushed up and stifled? Guess we'll never know.
Not even a house called it. If there was a house, it would be a mile away from the church. Yeah. I think that Charles G. Harper doth protest too much.
Like this, this place goes all the way to Charles G. Harper, James. So that's the story of Augustus Hare and the Croglin Grange vampire.
That's a great story. I love that.
Well, that was the Croglin Grange vampire. What's number one, James? It's the question everyone is asking me. People are hounding me in the street. ABK, they cry. What will be the number one episode of 2023? 2023.
Well,
and then a friend of theirs says the 2023.
2023.
In a little voice.
Well, Alistair, it will be no surprise to learn that we peaked very soon in the year. This was from the 2nd of February. So it's like one of the first episodes we did, and we never scaled these
heights. It was downhill from there. Absolutely downhill from there.
It was Series 4, Episode 31.
That's when the slide began.
This did feature a special guest.
With Amy Gledhill.
Yes, it is the Wold Rangers with Amy Gledhill. Amy Gledhill. I think she deserves her own echo.
Yeah, I think she's earned an echo. Basically, we're talking Wet Wang, we're talking Willie Howe.
Yes.
We're in prime Gledhill country, and I would like to introduce you to a range of characters known under the sobriquet the Wold Rangers.
Wow, I've never heard of the Wold Rangers.
I've never heard of the Wold Rangers. I told James I was going to do a podcast about the Wold Rangers, and I think your mind went immediately in the direction of Megazords.
Yeah, go Wold Rangers. New East Riding Wold Rangers.
What? Yeah, so
Heart. Acid.
What?
All the different. I don't know if they're sort of got. They'd have like the 5 elements of Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Did you say acid?
I said acid for some reason. I can't really remember Captain Planet.
I don't think there's any.
Whippets, flat caps.
Yeah.
Stereotypes.
Yorkshire pudding.
Puddings. Yeah.
So from the mid-19th century, the Wold Rangers were, well, it depends who you ask. According to Driffield Town Council and basically 20th century sources, they were like the nomads of Yorkshire's East Riding. Driffield Town Council describes the Wold Rangers as a nomadic tribe of gentlefolk of yesteryear who trod the ancient green lanes and bridle paths of the spectacular Yorkshire wolds. So they're either kind of happy hobos, kind of noble sons of the soil, or, if you read 19th century accounts, murderers. So there's sort of 2 different opinions about what they were. I think we're kind of in the area of the fraternity of vagabonds.
Are they mutually exclusive, though?
Being a murderer and being a happy hobo.
Some murderers must be happy.
Oh, I've never thought about a happy murderer before. Thanks for introducing my brain to that concept. Good for them.
It's crucial to say that these were real people. And basically what happened was the Industrial Revolution. To summarize, quite a lot. And there were fewer jobs in the countryside. And so there wasn't enough labour to go around on a farm. And so Yorkshire was full of people who basically went from farm to farm doing work, sleeping in barns without having a home, without having a full-time job. And this was characterised as sort of a quaint and fun thing that they really enjoyed. And I don't know how true that was. What I do know, though, is that they had some incredible nicknames. So basically, just to save time, I'm going to take my 5 points for names now.
Okay.
As I read you a list of their nicknames.
You're halfway there with the Go-Go Wold Rangers.
Yep.
Do.
So what I've done is the names are so good, I've included 3 names in this long list of names that are not real that I have invented.
Oh,
hello.
So just to make it fun, I'm going to pit you against each other, James and Amy. Mm-hmm. Can you spot which you think are not actual names of real individual Wold Rangers?
Mm-hmm.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have to guess as we go along, or do we guess at the end?
I think you can guess at the end, but feel free to chip in if you want to remember one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Snaffling Jock. Mushroom Charlie. Slapface Ned. Methylated Annie. Mucky Lena.
Come on.
Some possible characters for you to play, Amy.
What are you saying?
I just think that's within her range. I think she could be a Mucky Lena. Tin Whistle Joe. Three-Fingered Jimmy. Famous for his short temper. Quinitin Tarantino. Staffordshire Bill. Soldier Tom. Cloggy Sam. Simon Pepperami. Stamp. Tom Frod. Slenderman. Long Charlie. Spanish Prince. Mr. Soft. Ginger Joe. Horsehair Jack. Mad Halifax. Dog Geordie. Crewman Mabel.
What?
And Ben Wilson. Who I assume had a nickname, but for some reason wasn't noted down. And so his name has been given.
His real name was like hydrochloric Phil.
So what do you think? Did any of those strike
Only
you?
Three of them you made up.
Three of those I made up.
The one that mentions Pepperami has got to be made up.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Pepperami. To be fair, the last of the Wold Rangers died in the 90s, so it is conceivable that they heard of, indeed, ate a Pepperami. But you are right. Simon Pepperami was not a real nickname. I made that up.
I'm sad if it's right, but is it Quentin Tarantino?
All right, Quentin Tarantino. Yeah, no, that is... I added that one into the list.
But there's about 5 that I'd pegged as like those absolutely made up.
Now it's difficult.
I'm pretty sure... I want to put half of my pot on Mr. Soft. But...
Oh, Mr. Soft.
Why do you want to put the other half of your pot?
I think Methylated Alice. What's she called?
Methylated Annie.
Methylated Annie. Nah, that might be true because she might have been on the meths.
Can I ask, there was a Jimmy in there. What was Jimmy's name?
Three-Fingered Jimmy.
Three-Fingered Jimmy. I think it could be that one because I think it's under the radar enough where if you were making one up and slipping it under, you wouldn't call it like big, massive, crazy tits Karen. You'd be like, oh, Three-Fingered Jimmy. Maybe it's too subtle. And also maybe it was in tribute to your fellow host, James Shakeshaft.
In which case, I'm taking that half of my pot off Mr. Soft. Sorry, Mr. Soft. I'm going to put my full pot on Ginger Joe.
On Ginger Joe?
Because he's from a viral video from about 10 years ago.
Well, so is Slenderman, but you've ignored Slenderman completely.
Oh, the Slenderman.
Slenderman. I know. I think that is true because I think that would be too obvious to put in as a trick.
Unlike Quentin Tarantino.
And Simon Pepperami. I think Amy thinks I'm a lot more cunning than I am.
It's just going to be Ben Wilson. He couldn't be bothered.
Yeah, he's just an IT guy, Ben Wilson. Shall I tell you?
Yeah, go on.
James, is that pot definitely off Mr. Soft?
Off Mr. Soft, fully on Ginger Joe.
Okay, well, it was Mr. Soft, obviously, because that's a character from a Mint advert. I couldn't...
Yeah, but Ginger Joe's a character from a viral video.
Yeah, but...
Your boy in the corner, Ginger Joe. Tell him, man. God. Yeah, man.
Well, I've never seen that video. Ginger Joe, let me tell you.
Got off the bus with my day saver, smoked a reefer in the corner, laid low, did a grand theft auto.
What?
Mr. Soft.
How come everything around you is so strange? He was a very soft mint.
He's a very soft mint.
He was a soft mint.
Ginger Joe was a man with an air of authority, piercing blue eyes, a hawk-like nose, and a flaming ginger beard.
Whoa.
The Wold Rangers these days are a group of people who have set up trails you can take throughout the Yorkshire Wolds, and they've named them after different Wold Rangers.
Wow.
So you can go on their website, and they've done loads of research into the individuals, so that you can see drawings by...
Methylated Annie. I bet they're scary. They're frightening. They're done in biro, and she's basically coloured a whole sheet of A4 paper in with spider webs.
There is just based on Angela Antrim, who interviewed loads of them and drew beautiful illustrations of them. So you can see drawings of several of these characters from the 80s, the last surviving Wold Rangers.
They must have been very hard.
When King George V visited Driffield, Ginger Joe refused to shift out of the way, sitting on his favourite spot in town. And so, according to their website, the hapless vicar was forced to conduct the service of commemoration as the King of the Wold's Green Lanes and the King and Queen of England stared each other out.
Ooh.
What a character.
Oh.
I can't imagine. This character sounds completely made up. The look of him you've described and the contempt he has for the crown. I can't imagine.
I've described exactly me, James. I don't know if you realise what you're saying. But he looks exactly and sounds exactly like me. Air of authority, piercing blue eyes. I'm not always accompanied by a dog and a chicken who I keep tied to my leg, which Ginger Joe did.
One on each?
Was his best friend. The chicken.
Worst enemy.
Worst enemy.
So that was number one. James, is that the end, or have you got some honourable mentions for me?
Sorry, all of these were voted for by the lore folk in the Discord.
On the Discord?
On the Discord, which you can join if you join us at patreon.com/LoremenPod. So what we did, we asked people to say what their favourite episodes were, and then people voted on that, and that has given us this countdown. And people did kind of list certain highlight bits from the episode in order to kind of, remind other people why they liked them so much. All that it says about Series 4, Episode 41, Somerset Fairy Tales, Beef Pagoda.
No idea what that means. Just a great code name.
It does sound good.
Even the phrase honourable mentions to me sounds like a euphemism for a judge's genitals. Wounded his honourable mentions.
Don't mention his honourable mentionables. And I would like to thank all of the deputies that we've had over the year. And I would like to list them.
Have you got that list?
I've got the list here.
Are you going to list them in full?
I'm going to have a go. So I would like to thank Amy Gledhill, Jenny Collier, Nick Mason, King Charles. That wasn't a guess. That was an episode title.
King Charles. Yeah, no, I don't think he came on in the end.
He had stuff on. Tom Mayhew.
He was really busy.
Yuriko Kotani.
Unexpectedly busy, to be honest.
Beck Hill, Amy Jeffs, Miles Benson. And then, of course, our Christmas pigs, Sunil Patel, Bethan Briggs Miller, Meso again, Danny Robbins, and the Quantum Mechanics. Thank you ever so much, deputies.
Thank you.
For your hard work over the year. And thank you, the listener, for listening to us. It's all we ask. It is all we ask. And also, we do also ask you to join the Patreon.
You don't have to, but come on.
But you get bonus episodes. And in fact, after the end bit, I'm going to play a little bit of a bonus episode from Beck Hill. She told a really, really good, scary story that happened to her. And it's lovely.
It's just spooky.
So we'll pop it in after the end credits, which will be coming up right now.
Is that now?
These are them. These are those credits.
It's
they're not really
credits.
credits. I've called them end credits, but they're not credits because
it's not really credits, it's just a little bit of music.
Yeah, it's just some music, and we say that was that. And join us on the patreon.com/LoremenPod.
So that was that.
Stuff.
Join us on the Patreon.
Yeah, that was that.
For things.
So
that was that. So join us on the Patreon.
Should we do some new stories in the new year?
Yeah, probably some. Yeah,
let's do it.
Yeah.
All right then. We'll check out that bit of bonus stuff, everyone. See you later, lore folk.
Bye. Happy New Year.
Still Happy New Year.
So when I was writing the most recent Horror Heights book, I was filming. I was in the middle of filming Make Away Takeaway, which is a kids show on CITV. Rest in peace, the channel.
Not the viewers.
Not the viewers. No.
It'd be awful. What happened? Everyone is watching the show.
We filmed some of the show in a big house in the middle of the country, just outside of Manchester, and someone needed to stay at the house for insurance purposes. So that if no one would come in and steal all the cameras and everything.
Such a spooky setup.
Yeah, this is definitely a spooky
big old
setup.
country house in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
And all the cast and crew, well, I was the cast, but all the crew and everyone was staying in this hotel nearby. But you still had to, it was like a 10-minute drive. And I realized that if I nominated myself to stay at the house, because I had the green room was one of the bedrooms. So it meant that I could stay there and then sleep into the latest time possible, get up and put my makeup straight on. I didn't have to get up an hour before everyone else and do the makeup, because it's kids' TV, so there's no makeup artist. It was me. And so I was I insisted that I would be the person who looks after the house. And the first year the first series we filmed there, and it was spring, and it was beautiful, and it was a week and a half in this big house, and we'd have these lovely dinner all together outside, and everyone would go back to the hotel, and I'd have this lovely house to myself, and I'd watch the sunset, and in the morning I'd get up as the sun was rising over the lawn, and I saw an actual deer at one point. It was beautiful. And so then the following year I insisted that I'd be that person again, because I had such a nice experience the first time. But we were filming during sort of winter going into autumn. Not autumn, sorry. Winter, but it was like that.
Spooky.
You know how there was no spring this year? It was just, yeah. And so it was a lot like that. And it was dark and stormy, proper dark and stormy night. And everyone had gone back to the hotel, and I was staying in this room, and I was writing the book. And at about 9:30, there was a knock on the door. And that was really terrifying in itself, just because I was we're in the middle of, it's not a neighbor. It's not someone who's it's not going to be a post worker or something.
Yeah, and you're a millennial. People don't just pop around and knock on our doors.
No.
Text or something first.
I was a bit worried about that. Sort of then ended up eventually coming out the room. There was a mezzanine level, and I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see out the window to see if there was anyone there or whatever, but there was another knock when I was standing there. And so I went down, and there was two lots of doors, because you got that little mudroom area where it's people take off their shoes. So I opened the first front door, and then sort of tentatively opened the second front door, and it was the sound guy. And the sound guy was like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't have your number. I realized that I'd left my thing uncharged. If I don't charge it now, it won't work tomorrow. I had to come back and charge it." So I was like, "Oh, okay, phew."
And also, I've been dead for 10 years.
Heart rate returned. Cool. What's that?
Also, I've been dead for 10 years, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah. And he's been dead for 10 years. Yeah.
All the best
so I was
sound guys
"Oh, yeah,
have.
no worries, mate. I'll leave you to it." I went back upstairs, and so while I was writing, I could hear him go, "Oh, see you later." And I was like, "All right, bye, mate." And then cut to about 11 o'clock at night, and I'm still writing. And suddenly I hear the front door bang. And then footsteps walking around. So I start yelling "hello," and I thought maybe it's the sound guy who's come back. And then it stops. And so I just sort of sit there for a little bit, trying to work out if that was what I heard, or if it was something outside or something. And then just as I was maybe I just heard something, I could hear the footsteps again. And so I ended up going out to the mezzanine, looking down into the entrance part of the house, and I couldn't see anyone, and I stood there waiting for ages. Nothing happened, but I was still a bit freaked out about it. And one thing that made me nervous is, filming, when you're filming somewhere, they will have those little neon arrow signs that they'll stick on telegraph poles and stuff that say Unit B or something that. And it's a little arrow. And those things are so that the camera people and crew and all stuff know how to get there. And because we were filming with different people each day, it was so they knew how to get off the main motorway to get this house. And then something occurred to me that any savvy thieves might recognize what those arrows mean and follow them and be like, "Oh, look, this big old house with no cars parked out the front. Let's rob it," or something. And so I was like, "Oh, crap, I'm not built for this." So I called the producer and told him, and he was like, "Oh, if there's someone in there, call the police." And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I don't know if there is anyone here. I'm just a bit weirded out." And he was like, "I can come round. I'll be there in about 10 minutes. I don't want to go." He would have had to call a cab. And I was like, and he was a new producer. I hadn't worked with him before, so I didn't want to be like, just, I didn't want my first impression to be like, oh, the woman working on this show is scared of, the wind or whatever. And so in the end, I convinced him that we should just do a video call, and I'll look around the house with him on the video, and we'll make sure. So I did a whole tour of the house. I went into all the rooms, turned on the light, turned off the light. Now, if an old big house in the middle of the country on a dark, stormy night isn't scary enough, add to that the set of an abandoned children's TV show, like just a room full of kids' show paraphernalia and a bunch of cameras pointing at you when you walk in the room. It's just quite creepy. And so, but I went through, I couldn't find anything, checked all the rooms, kitchen, laundry. And then as I was coming back out, I realized that I hadn't sort of checked the door. And as I went to check it, I realized that when I opened the first door to the mudroom, the second door was blowing in the wind. And what had happened is the sound guy hadn't shut up properly. And so it had been banging back and forth. And obviously the wind had been making the floorboards creak and all this stuff. And I've misheard it as footsteps. So I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. I know what it is. So I shut the door and locked it. Shut the second door, locked it. And so I said, no, it's fine. I know what it is. It's all good. And then the producer sort of laughingly said, well, you realize if someone is in there, you've just locked them in there with you, because you can't leave without the key. And so I put the key on the counter next to the door, and I was like, well, if anyone's in here, you can let yourself out. Like, I'll leave you alone now. And I sort of went up to the room, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Went off the phone call. So I start getting ready for bed anyway. I'm clearly just tired. I'm just getting to that stage now. I was in the middle of writing about a ghost. Like, clearly it's very suggestible. And then I remembered that I'd not turned off the light in the laundry. And I'm an environmentalist. So I was like, I'll go down. And as I went down to turn off the light in the laundry, I called my mate Steph to recount everything that happened to her, because I was still quite full of adrenaline by this stage. And as I was coming back from the laundry, I was walking through the kitchen, and the kitchen door was on one side of like the main entrance, and on the other side of the main entrance was a sitting room. And as I came through the door, I saw what I can only describe as the end of someone's shoe quickly taking a step back away from the doorway of the sitting room opposite me. So as if someone was about to walk out and then realized I was coming around the corner and quickly stood back to hide themselves in the room. And I sort of screamed and said to my friend, someone's here. And she was like, what? And I said, someone's here. And I just immediately hung up on her so I could call the police.
Oh, God.
And, the first time it happened, I said, someone's here. And she said, what? And I said, I just saw someone step away from the door. And she was like, are you okay? And then I stood there for a while staring at the door, thinking maybe I just saw a shadow, or like maybe it's, again, just my mind playing tricks on me. And as I was sort of telling myself everything was all right, because I couldn't hear anything, I just saw the tip of a shoe start to step out and then retreat again. And and at that point, that's when I sort of hung up on her, went to call the police. And as I was dialing 999, the shoe came out again and then stood still long enough for me to realize that it wasn't the tip of a brown shoe, but a mouse. It was just a mouse. And of course it was a mouse, because it's a house in the country. And of course it's a mouse. Why would it be the tip of a brown leather shoe? And it was that moment that I realized that if that mouse hadn't have come back out, then like what my brain had done was, because those are just two separate incidents. I saw a mouse, and then there was like a door hadn't been shut properly. Two separate incidents. but my brain couldn't not try and form a pattern by putting those two things together. And because it had originally decided that there was someone walking through the house, even though I dispelled that, even though I'd found the cause of it, it still had this mental image of a human walking around in the house. So as soon as it saw something that confirmed that mental image of a person, rather than logically going, oh, that's a mouse. Clearly you just saw a mouse running across the floor because it's the country. It just went, oh, well, clearly that's the end of a shoe because there's someone walking around the house. And if the mouse hadn't have come out, to this day, I'd be going, I don't know what I saw, but there was something there. And because eventually I would have gone to check the room and there would have been no one in there. And I would have been like, I swear I saw someone stepping back away from the door. Shoe ghost. It was a mouse wearing giant shoes.
A little mouse with clogs on.
Yeah, that's right. It's clomping around the house.
I declare.
But it was so interesting because I'm a skeptical person, but it really made me fully understand why some people like swear blind that they see things or heard things or whatever, because my brain could not, it just couldn't think, oh, it's such a dumb thing as like it's two separate tiny trivial things. Like it just kept trying to marry those things and creating a thought that didn't exist. And so I have a lot of empathy for people who swear blind that they see stuff, because I get it. When your brain can't comprehend something for a second, it reaches for some pretty weird explanations.